20 ESL job interview questions and answers. If you are preparing for your job as an English second language teacher, here are 20 possible ESL teacher interview questions with example answers. You don't need to memorize the answers, but take note of some of the vocabulary, ideas, and expressions you can use in your own answers. In an interview, it is essential to provide specific examples from your teaching experience to illustrate your teaching philosophy and methods effectively. Highlighting your enthusiasm to work with young learners and showcasing your ability to create an inclusive and engaging learning environment will make you a strong candidate for the ESL teaching position. How do you create a positive and engaging learning environment for young learners in your ESL classroom? To create a positive and engaging learning environment, I focus on making my ESL classroom a safe and fun space for young learners. I use colorful and interactive materials to pique their interest and incorporate games, songs, and hands-on activities to keep them engaged. I encourage active participation and foster a sense of camaraderie among students, ensuring that they feel comfortable and motivated to learn. How do you address the varying proficiency levels and learning styles of young ESL students in your classroom? Understanding that young learners have diverse proficiency levels and learning preferences, I employ a differentiated approach in my ESL classroom. I assess the students' language abilities and tailor my lessons to accommodate individual needs. I use a variety of teaching strategies such as visual aids, role-playing, and pair work to cater to different learning styles and ensure that each student can actively participate and progress at their own pace. How do you incorporate language development into play-based learning for young ESL students? Play-based learning is crucial for young ESL students as it promotes language development in a natural and enjoyable way. I integrate language learning into games and activities by using language-rich toys, puzzles, and role-playing scenarios. Through imaginative play, students practice new vocabulary and language structures while having fun. This approach not only enhances language skills, but also fosters their creativity and social interaction. How do you assess the progress and language development of young ESL learners? In assessing the progress of young ESL learners, I use a combination of formative and summative assessments. I observe their participation in class activities, monitor their interactions during group work, and review their completed assignments. Additionally, I conduct regular short quizzes and oral assessments to gauge their understanding and language proficiency. I also maintain a portfolio of their work to track their improvements over time. How would you approach teaching English to non-native speakers? I would approach teaching English to non-native speakers by creating a student-centered and communicative classroom environment. I would focus on integrating listening, speaking, reading, and writing skills through engaging activities, authentic materials, and interactive discussion. What classroom management techniques do you use in your classroom? As an ESL teacher, I prioritize establishing clear expectations and routines with collaborative input from students. I use a quiet signal to regain attention, implement positive reinforcement with a reward system, and encourage small group activities to keep students engaged. I handle challenging behaviors through private conversations, understanding, and finding solutions together. Open communication with parents helps reinforce positive behavior. My goal is to create a nurturing, respectful, and stimulating learning environment for my students to thrive in their language learning journey. How do you build a positive rapport with ESL students and their families? I build a positive rapport by establishing open and respectful communication channels with students and their families. I actively listen to their concerns, provide regular progress updates, and encourage their involvement in the learning process through parent-teacher conferences, newsletters, and other forms of communication. How would you handle a student who is resistant to to participating in class activities or speaking English. I would first establish a supportive and non-judgmental classroom environment where students feel safe to take risks. I would encourage the student through gradual exposure, providing scaffolding and positive reinforcement. Building rapport and understanding their concerns can help me address any underlying issues and motivate their engagement. How do you ensure that ESL students are actively engaged in the learning process? I ensure active engagement by incorporating interactive and hands-on activities, collaborative projects, and real-world tasks that are relevant to students' lives and interests. I also use varied instructional techniques such as games, multimedia, and group work to cater to different learning styles and maintain student interest. What games and activities do you use in your classroom of young ESL learners? Give some examples. As an ESL teacher for young learners, I prioritize creating a dynamic and interactive classroom environment to keep my students engaged and motivated. I incorporate a variety of games and activities that not only facilitate language learning, but also makes the process enjoyable for the children. Here are some examples of games and activities I use in my classroom. Vocabulary bingo. I create bingo cards with words or images related to the lesson's vocabulary. Students mark the corresponding word or picture as I call them out. This game helps reinforce new vocabulary in a fun and competitive way. Simon Says. I play Simon Says to practice action verbs and body parts. I give commands like Simon says, touch your nose, Simon says, jump 3 times. It's a great way to enhance listening comprehension and encourage movement. Picture dictation. I describe a scene or picture and students draw what they hear. This game promotes listening skills and helps them associate spoken language with visual representations. Role-playing. I organize role-playing activities where students act out various scenarios such as ordering food at a restaurant or going to the doctor. Role plays allows them to practice functional language and improve their conversational skills. Word charades. Students take turns acting out words without speaking while their classmates guess the word. It's a lively activity that enhances vocabulary and builds body language understanding. These games and activities foster a positive and enjoyable learning experience for my young ESL learners, enabling them to develop language skills while having a great time in the classroom. How do you engage ESL students to develop their speaking and listening skills? I encourage ESL students to develop speaking and listening skills by providing ample opportunities for conversation and oral practice through pair work, group discussions, presentations, and role plays. I also integrate authentic listening materials such as podcasts, videos, and songs to expose students to natural language use. How would you create a positive and inclusive learning environment for ESL students? Building a positive and inclusive environment is crucial. I would establish clear expectations, foster open communication, and promote mutual respect among students. I would also incorporate culturally diverse materials and encourage students to share their own backgrounds and experiences. By embracing diversity, I aim to create an environment where all students feel valued and motivated to learn. How do you address the needs of ESL students with limited English proficiency? When working with students with limited English proficiency, I emphasize visual aids, gestures, and real-life examples to facilitate understanding. I also use scaffolded instruction, breaking down complex concepts into manageable steps. Additionally, I encourage active participation and provide opportunities for practice and repetition to reinforce learning. How do you incorporate technology into ESL instruction? I integrate technology as a valuable tool for ESL instruction. I use interactive websites, language learning apps, and multimedia resources to enhance engagement and language practice. I also encourage students to use online tools for language development outside the classroom, such as language exchange platforms and educational videos. How do you assess students' progress in English language acquisition? I believe in using a variety of assessment methods to gauge students' language proficiency. These may include formative assessments like observation, class participation, and informal quizzes. I also use summative assessments such as tests, projects, and oral presentations to evaluate students' overall language development and progress over time. How would you handle a student who is struggling to keep up with the class? I would first assess the specific challenges the student is facing by reviewing their work and seeking input from their previous teachers. Then, I would provide additional support through one-on-one instruction, extra practice materials, and targeted interventions. Regular check-ins and progress monitoring would also help me track the student's improvement and adjust my teaching accordingly. How would you engage ESL students in active language practice during lessons? I believe in creating a communicative and interactive classroom environment. To engage ESL students actively, I would include group discussions, role plays, pair work, and real-life simulations that require them to use English for meaningful communication. This approach encourages students to practice their language skills in authentic contexts and promotes confidence in their abilities. How do you keep track of current trends and developments in ESL teaching? To stay updated with the latest trends and developments, I regularly attend professional development workshops, conferences, and webinars focused on ESL teaching. I also subscribe to reputable educational journals, join online forums and communities, and actively seek out new resources and research in the field. Continuous learning is vital to provide the best education to my students, and I like and subscribe to the Etiquette English Teachers YouTube channel. How would you address the individual needs of ESL students with learning disabilities or special needs? Inclusion is a priority for me, and I strive to address the individual needs of all students. For students with learning disabilities or special needs, I would collaborate with the school's special education team to understand their specific challenges and develop appropriate accommodations and modifications. I would also provide additional support such as multisensory materials, visual aids, and adapted assignments to ensure their access to the curriculum and promote their overall language development. What strategies do you use to promote English language development in the classroom? I use strategies such as language immersion, explicit language instruction, visual aids, authentic materials, and real-world tasks. I also encourage students to use English in meaningful context through discussions, projects, and interactive activities.